Dear students of third semester, as I have been allotted the topic Robert Browning's famous poem, The Last Sight Together, today I'll discuss the substance of the poem. In first stanza, we see that the rejected lover takes his failure in love calmly, though it amounts to his failure in life. He looks upon the failure as a decree of fate. He is proud that he was once loved by the woman. He, however, begs of her the favor of a last ride with her. So, this is the first stanza, the substance of the first stanza actually. Now, the second stanza. The lady bends her deep dark eyes and begins to think what to do, and the lover waits in terrible suspense. The girl grants his prayer. The lover's heart leaps up with a joyful thought of enjoying one more ride with her, of attaining to Godhead for one day more. Now, the third stanza. The girl comes nearer and nearer to the lover, and he grows more and more passionate. His passion is like that of one who looks at the patches of clouds on the western sky, which look like the breast of a young girl. The girl comes to him and leans upon his breast, and he is perched on the height of spiritual bliss. Now, the fourth stanza. The ride begins. The lover's mind is enlivened and refreshed by the joy of the ride. He thinks it useless to rack up the past, to consider what might have happened to him if he had acted differently. He would have had nothing to console himself if the worst happened to him, and the worst if the girl turned down his proposal for the last ride. Stanza 5. As they ride side by side, the lover reviews in mind the achievements of men in different spheres of life. He finds that he is not only one to fail in life. Failure is writ large on human endeavor. All men try hard to realize their ideals, but none succeeds. Though they fail, they are not crushed beneath the weight of their failures. What is done is very small in comparison with what remains to be done. The lover hoped the girl would marry him, but his hope was not realized. What he has achieved is only a partial success in the form of this last ride together. Now, stanza 6. The actual achievements of man fall far short of his aspiration. The ambitious plans conceived by a man cannot be all translated into action because of his physical limitations. Success is an unattainable ideal. The achievements of statesmen are recorded in a single line in a book of history, and the reward a soldier gets for his heroic service in the battlefield is a careless inscription of his name over his tombstone. The lover's right is better than the reward of a statesman or a soldier. Now, stanza 7. The lover contrasts his lot with that of a poet. The poet can express what an ordinary man feels, but cannot express. He considers the beautiful things to be the best and expresses his conception of beauty in rhymes. But the tragedy of the poet is that he can never realize his ideal of beauty. He often writes about the joy of riding with one sweetheart without ever riding himself his own life. But the lover, who has never ever written a single line of verse in his own life, is practically enjoying the pleasure of a ride. Now, stanza 8. The lover contrasts his achievement with that of a sculptor who devotes the best 20 years of his life to the cultivation of his art and carves out a statue of Venus. Venus is the name of a goddess of love, and she's what to say, goddamn beautiful. That's why here the poet refers the beauty of Venus. But men next, but men will turn their eyes away from the statue of Venus to look at a rustic girl of flesh and blood crossing a stream. In view of this tragic lot of the sculpture, the lover has no reason to regret. The musician grows prematurely old in composing musical notations, but the only praise he gets from his friends is that his music has great possibilities, the praise which is hardly a praise. Moreover, in music, popular tastes often change. Thus, the hot favorite musicians of today becomes a back number tomorrow. The lover is more fortunate. He gave his youth only and has got the pleasure of riding with his beloved. Now, stanza 9. None can tell whether it is good for a man to achieve his ideal here in this world or simply to strive to attain it, as he must lead some kind of life in heaven. It is better for him to die with his ideal unattained here. The lover shudders at the thought that he will have nothing to strive for in the life to come because life in heaven must be better than earthly life. Now, stanza 10. And this is the last stanza. The lover fancies that he will attain heaven while he will be riding with his beloved, for this ride will continue till the end of time. If they ride on and on, experiencing forever the newness and freshness of love, their life will be changed not in the essential nature of love, but in the degree of intensity of love. This moment of supreme bliss will be eternalized. He prays to God to make his ride unending and forever and ever. So, this is the substance of the poem. And now I will give you some details of the critical appreciation of the poem. The Last Night Together is considered by many critics to be the noblest of Browning's love poems. For dramatic intensity, for power, for his exhibition of what he has aptly termed Browning's tremendous concentration of his power in excluding his object world and its relations. The poem is certainly a typically, love poem, but there are some robust optimism in this poem. It is a poem of unrequited love, but the rejected lover does not whine and whimper like the sentimental lovers of Tennyson. He takes the rejection as a decree of fate and calmly resigns to his lot. He has the ideal in his heart, and it shall be cherished as the occupant of his heart's throne forever. The poem is a good example of the dramatic monologue, the literary form in which Browning specialized. Here, Browning catches the rejected lover at a highly critical moment of his life, a critical moment of life which is the main characteristics of dramatic monologue. The moment when he rides for the last time with a girl who jilted him and lays bare, though his utterance, the history of his soul, his fatalism, which makes him take his failure in love as a degree of fate, and his robust optimism, which leads him to make of his failure something better than success. Like other dramatic monologues of Browning, the poem begins abruptly with the words abrupt beginning, which is the another characteristics of dramatic monologue. Like other dramatic, this is the like other dramatic monologues. We also see and that there is an abrupt beginning, like I say it, then dearest, since it's so, etc., and then proceed to reveal the facet after facet of the lover's personality. The poem is predominantly argumentative, analytical, and psychological, like a typical dramatic monologue. Throughout the poem, the rejected lover argues why he should not mind his failure. Sorry, students. He pleads that he is not the only man to fail in life. Sorry, again, for the interruption. As I had a very bad cough. Fail I alone in a worse and these? Why? All men strive and who succeeds? So, let it be this much today. I'll continue the critical appreciation of this poem in my next class. Okay, and if there's any confusion, any question, please do ask me on WhatsApp.